So today we are going to be wrapping up the Turbo LS street truck build, and we're going to go start putting some miles on it, getting the tune sorted out. We might even be able to do some actual pulls. So that's what's in store. We're going to go get it registered tomorrow, but in the meantime, before that, we've got a couple other things to finish up before this thing's truly roadworthy. So a little recap if you're unfamiliar with this build or you haven't been following along. I've had this truck for a few years now. I use it as a temporary tow rig while I built my come and swap Ford dually. So I towed my open trailer with this. It was a really good truck. I bought it from my buddy Derek. He had already swapped a 6-liter and a 4L80E into it. Good truck, man. It pulled really well. Everything was great. Some point along the way, after I'd quit using it regularly, just had it as a daily, my girlfriend had to borrow it, and the trans cooler line popped off and dumped all the fluid out and burnt the trans up. So it sat for a bit, so on and so forth. But the plan the whole time, the plan from when I bought this truck was to do this build. This is a build I've wanted to do for 4 or 5 years now, literally since I built my LS Miata, which if you follow along, it's a long time ago. Started watching Sloppy Mechanics, and ever since then, I've wanted to do a build like this. So that's why I bought this particular truck as a temporary tow rig, because I knew once I was done using it as a tow rig, it would make a great candidate to do a Turbo LS build. So 6-liter 4L80E. We got the trans built by A&H. They did a killer job. It's probably 900,000 horsepower capable comfortably. This is a Gen 3 LQ9 6-liter. So I pulled this out. I built it with a Texas Speed drop-in rods pistons combo. We've got Texas Speed cam. We got PRC stage 2.5 heads. So it's a decently built little motor. This motor should honestly handle a solid 1400 horsepower. Now, we're limited a bit by our turbos. This is a VS Racing 7875. This turbo is going to cap out maybe around 900, 950, like absolute max. And then we're limited by fuel system currently. We've just got a single Deechworks 450 pump and 92-pound Deechworks injectors. And then we're using the stock truck intake. So the engine, the long block, can handle, again, 4 digits. The current configuration we have right now is probably good for 600 on pump, 900 on E if we gave it a little more fuel. So that's where we're at now. And the plan for right now is to keep this thing as a nice, comfortable street truck. That's the point. We've still got cruise control. We've back integrated to the stock ECU to make it think it's still running the show, so that way everything works as it should, such as cruise control. That's really the main thing we can't do on the Terminator. And yeah, just make it a nice, solid little cruiser car. I can jump in, run to the hardware store, do whatever I need to do, but I can do burnouts at will. So that's the truck. That's where we're at. So the first project on the to-do list was to get our 3-bar map sensor installed so we could actually read positive boost pressure. So we get this thing screwed to the firewall. We went with the kind of traditional remote mount GM 3-bar map style. Now, the connector is different than the standard stock style connector. So I bought this little adapter harness because it was just going to be quicker to get it than to order a connector and repin it and so on and so forth. However, unfortunately, the connector for the map sensor side was not the right connector. Looks identical, almost the exact same, just slightly different where the locking tabs are. So since we weren't able to use that, I did order another 3-bar map that goes in the stock location, plugs into the stock connector. However, it was $13. So I was pretty skeptical on it, but it was all we really had. So we just went with it. The next thing was to get fans in. Can't really drive around without radiator fans. So that was a big thing holding us back. So the first thing we needed to do was get a relay setup mounted. So I drilled some holes into this plastic. We started mounting our MSD solid state relay block. Now these bolts come with nuts for the backside, but it wasn't going to be easy to get to the backside of this plastic housing. So I just drilled some small holes and used the bolts to basically thread the plastic. And honestly, it worked out pretty great. They snugged up nice and tight, nice and solid, and that allowed us to mount this in a nice, super easy to access spot right there on the electrical center with all the other electrical stuff. So with that done, it was time to get the fans in. Now, I decided not to go with a shroud on this truck. I don't think it really needs it for what we're doing. So we had to pull apart the front end to run the radiator fan zip tie deals that kind of punch through the radiator and hold the fans on. So we had to take, the intercooler off, the hood latch off, the AC condenser off, and then we were able to access that and start installing our fans. Now, in the terms of fans, these are some temporary ones. They might look really small. They are really small. So these are just a temporary solution for now to get us on the road and get us going. So we start getting the fans installed, we start getting them wired up. Now, I always go with 10 gauge wire on fans. These fans probably won't need it, but the fans that we are going to have in here long term we'll most likely need it. And I prefer to go overkill on wiring as opposed to underkill. You can never really have too much wire, too heavy of a gauge of wire. So I always like to plan for the future in case I got to put something crazy on that circuit. So we get those wired in, get them hooked up to the MSD, and then we run our output from the Holley. So Holley gives you this plug with a cap on it, and then they give you another plug with the unterminated harness that has all your inputs and outputs on it. So it makes it super easy. All we got to do is plug that in, pick which one we want to be the output for the fans. Boom, we're done. Now, you could run one for each fan. That way you can control each fan individually. I don't really feel the need for that with this, so we're going to save some of those other outputs and just use one output to control both fans. So we'll run that to the MSD, we'll just bridge it to the other channel, and boom, boom, fans should turn on when they need to. All right, the truck is registered, insured, and we've got the final little odds and ends buttoned up. So we replaced the thermostat housing, fixed our coolant leak. We were able to fill it and bleed it fully with coolant. Got our fans in. Now, these are not our permanent fans. These are 10-inch Mishimoto race fans. I ordered the 16-inch fans. It was one of those things I kept putting off ordering it because I'm like, I don't need them just yet. And the time when it comes to drive the vehicle and start actually using it, at least for me, it always comes up quick. Like, I don't see it coming. And then I'm like crap, I can't drive it anywhere because it doesn't have fans. So luckily I had these 10-inch race fans lying around. I put them in. The wiring and everything will be the same. We'll just put the 16s in when we get those in. But these will work for now. They pull a ton of air. They're just not going to be pulling it from a ton of surface area. So not the ideal setup, but I think it'll be okay for at least cruising around. So we got those wired in with the MSD solid state relay. That's all sorted. Went ahead and did an oil change. So we got our initial break-in oil out from our few heat cycles we put into it. We've got some more just straight 40 break-in oil. Another cheap filter. We're gonna run that for probably 100 miles or so, and then we'll start putting some good oil in it. Talked to Matt Happel. So Matt Happel, Sloth Mechanics, if you guys aren't familiar with him, really great YouTube channel. His channel was the inspiration for this build. Just why this truck's so exciting, because this has been on my to build list for years and years, and it's gotten pushed back, and finally, not only are we doing it, but we did it. I mean, it's running and driving, and it's time. He said we can start rolling into boost and see what happens. Nothing left to it but to do it. Alright, first test drive, good. I didn't get it hard in the boost because the air fuels trying to go into boost were pretty, what I feel, lean, 14s. So I want to check the log and see what happened as we got into boost. First. Alright. A little loud in here. We fixed the thing. The closed loop wasn't off. I had Matt remote in and look at the logs. The closed loop wasn't. What?
That sprinkler.
The closed loop fueling wasn't on, which, the amazing things about Hollies is what I was trying to say. Alright, we're logging. The game because this thing's probably only gonna make like 500, maybe 6 max, and like I was worried that wouldn't feel like anything because the Miata makes 5, but it's a different kind of 5.
It's like with these tires, they should boil the tires off.
Yeah, like I said, the whole time I've been just barely. I'm still not even 100% throttle. I'm like, I might go to 3/4 and spin the tires.
That's like 10. I still haven't heard the wastegate open.
No. I mean, I don't know what the wastegate is.
Yeah. That time I saw double digits.
What was that?
I was like, not that high, but I mean, it was at 10.5 air fuel.
Well, what was the boost?
Like 5,
Oh,
if that.
yeah, I don't know if the wastegate, like, I don't know what the spring is or anything. It might have a small spring in it.
Oh, that was like 14.
Yeah, that was most of it. I heard the gate open.
Yeah, it started cracking open.
Sounded sick for a second there. Alright, so we've got to address the wastegate. So good. Hell yeah.
Sick.
All right, well, the first drive went super well. First few drives, I guess. Oh man, that was a pretty funny saga. So, first starting out, rolling into it, trying to roll into it, seeing that it was lean, the closed loop wasn't on. So that's where basically Holly's reading the wideband and it's adjusting in real time. So it's doing that and it's doing long-term trim. So it's reading the wideband and slowly making a table that modifies your original table to fix areas where it's not at your target. You set what you want the target to be in certain areas, and it'll slowly adjust the tune to do that. But it also has your closed loop where it's going to be adjusting in real time. So if it's lean, it's going to add fuel. And man, the system's so good that you can literally just be like, Holly, take the wheel and let it do its thing. But that was off at first, so that's why we were having a little bit of lean issue. So Matt added some fuel, turned the closed loop on, then it was okay. So then I started rolling into it, and I'm thinking, man, I've got to be making boosts. Like I'm going 25, 30% throttle. Truck seems like it's moving out decent, and I can't get the boost gauge to get above 0. Granted, I wasn't flooring it because I was nervous, but I was trying to just quarter throttle my way into boost, and it would get to 0. I'm like, the boost gauge has got to be wrong. So we come back, we test it. It all checks out fine. Boost gauge is right. So, okay, we're really not getting this thing in the boost. We literally haven't got it in the boost yet. So last drive, I got on it. I stabbed it, 75, 80% throttle, and it just lit the tires up. And dude, I can't tell you how, I'm still smiling thinking about it. That was like the culmination of work, and one of those moments where you're like, yes, this is what I wanted, this is what this was for. And I could go on and on, but very exciting. Now there's a problem we do have, and that is our wastegate. So we hit boost cut, which is set at 15 PSI. Now, I have been concerned since I built this turbo kit that where I have my wastegate, it's not going to be efficient enough to keep the turbo from making too much boost, because it's got to come out, do this 90, and then go through my screamer pipe. However, what's not helping us is that the wastegate has 12 PSI springs in it. So what we're gonna do is put the softest spring in it, a 4 PSI spring, and see how it does. If we're still boost creeping and over boosting, we've got problems, we're gonna have to fix it. But we're gonna run the softest spring we can so we can turn it down as much as we want, and then we can add boost with the boost controller. So we gotta pull this wastegate off and swap this spring. right, so this is what was in there. This is what came with it shipped. I just put it on as it was shipped. So I think these are 2 6-pound springs, and we're putting a 4 in. So a lot less spring. Hopefully we won't have any overboosting issues. All right, easy enough. Let's toss it back in. All right, gate's back in with the softer spring. Checked everything. Everything seems good. Pretty much ready to rip. One thing we really are going to need to do soon before we beat on this thing too much is crankcase ventilation. So we've just got the 2 little breathers off the valve covers. We need to do the Motion Raceworks breathers and 2 10AN lines, you know, 1 off each valve cover to our catch can here. There's a few things like that need to get done, but she's drivable. We're going to drive her. I can't wait much longer. So we're gonna take a little trip over to Rowdy and Josue's shop. That's kind of like my inaugural test drive, like first real drive with any project lately is to their shop, because it's far enough to where you're really testing it, but it's close enough to where if something happens, it's not the end of the world. And if we're feeling froggy, we can do a burnout in front of the shop. So, you know, it's kind of a win-win. So let's hit the road, see how the boost is now. All right, well, we got this thing to stop hitting boost cut. It's still our wastegate priority, meaning, you know, making the wastegate the easy route for the exhaust. Not great, which we knew that when we did it that way. I just wanted to do it that way because it looked cool and I could do the screamer pipe instead of putting it on the housing, whatever. Point is, with the 4 PSI spring, it makes like 6, 7, 8, and then it did spike up to 11 max. So that's tolerable for now. We are gonna have to add probably a second gate, which, I mean, 144 mil gate's a little on the small side for a V8 anyway. So we'll probably just add a second gate somewhere in the future. Past that, one other issue we had is the trans temp was starting to get a little toasty. When I pulled back in here, it was 205. I went and drove it up and down the road just a little bit, and it got up to like 225, 230. So I parked it. I'm gonna try to put a fan on the trans cooler where it is now, see how that is. If it's still a problem, we might relocate it to the back. We might do a bigger trans cooler. I don't know. We'll have to see how that pans out. I think mainly it needs a fan where we had to mount it. It's not really getting direct airflow. So I think if we add a good fan on there, hopefully that'll sort that issue out. But yeah, so need to do that. One of the big things we need to do is install the digital dash. We have the Holley Pro Dash. We're going to try to put it where the head unit is. So we're going to do like a remote Bluetooth head unit. And basically that way we'll have a stock truck cluster, like everything's normal, but then we'll have the Pro Dash right there too. So I'm going to start working on that stuff tomorrow, but for now, it's dark. We're out of time. She rips though. I am so stoked, man. Finally getting to drive it around, and it still runs and drives like the stock truck I wanted it to feel like. The cruise control worked. Really the only thing that makes it less dailyable is having the higher stall converter, which is only really super noticeable because it's loud, which I guess would be the other thing. So we could quiet it up, but for now I'm having fun with the noise. So anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up here. I hope to see you guys next time. More projects to do on this thing, more driving to do. I can't wait. I love driving it. And now that it's running and driving, once we get all the little bugs sorted out, we can start working on the aesthetics. I've got an HD hood for it. We can lower it, put some, bigger OEM wheels on it, paint it, make it look nice. Now that it's mechanically cool, it needs to fit the part aesthetically. So anyway, lots more to come on this thing and the other projects. But for now, that's a wrap. So thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Come by, guys. Trying not to touch the lens anymore because there's no cover anymore.